Welcome to Two Humans Talking, the podcast that discusses the challenges of staying healthy in today's modern, fast paced world. I'm Tiffany Simms, your burnout recovery expert, and today we are going to talk about how to find the joy even when navigating a chronic, life threatening illness. And I am very excited to be here today with Jenn Fredericks, who is going to share with us today. So, Jenn, share with the people who you are, where you live, what you do, like what makes you you, and then we'll hop on in.
How much time do you have? No, I'm kidding. I'm Jenn. I am a resilience coach, trained and certified as a life coach. And I'm really still starting to focus in on my purpose and passion in life, which is guiding those with life-threatening chronic illness or a difficult diagnosis, and even their caregivers and loved ones through this marathon. Um, I read something yesterday that said, I have this feeling none of us are going to get out of here alive. And it kind of makes me giggle. I don't know if it should or not, but I've been dealing with a life-threatening chronic illness for the past 3 decades. I'm a 2-time kidney transplant recipient. And I've been able to find the glimmers, as Deb Dana would say, find the glimmers, find the joy, find time to laugh. Why am I working to stay alive and heal if I am not going to enjoy it?
I love it. And that's probably why that little like cartoon catches you and gives you the giggles. Because it's like, why are we going to go through all of the suffering and all of the heartache and all of the frustrations if we're not gonna have fun doing it?
Exactly. It was so funny. A few years ago, I was at a meditation weekend retreat here, and I live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and was so blessed to have Roger Gabriel in town. He actually helped Deepak Chopra set up found his Chopra centers around the world, back in the
Ah,
80s. Deepak Chopra is a spiritual teacher and doctor, and he has all of these centers around the world where you can go and learn about holistic healing and living. Really big into yoga and meditation, and he has like these, I think it's 5 pillars of healthy life.
hmm.
So he's kind of the pop culture uh, you know, Eastern modality leader, and Roger Gabriel was his like right hand man. And I went to a meditation retreat with him, and we're all there and we're serious and we're like, we're gonna meditate the heck out of this. And he said, well, do you know what enlightenment means? And we're all thinking, oh, it's when our our soul or our awareness or our consciousness kind of ascends and it matches with the universal vibration. And he's like, means lighten up.
Way to cut the tension in the room.
Yes. So we kind of were brought back down. He normalized it for us. He's like, no, this is just a way to enjoy life. This is a way to like live life better. And so that is, part of my mission. I'm here to help people live life better, no matter what circumstances come their way. Uh, Particularly, I have a lot of experience with chronic illness. Not only am I a chronic illness I don't know. I don't like to say warrior. I don't think I'm fighting it. Survivor. Yeah, I'm here. So maybe we can say that. But I also am a caregiver for my daughter, who is 15 now. But when she was 17, she was diagnosed with a low-grade brain tumor. And we've been, managing her marathon as well and trying to do that with as much compassion and joy and warmth and humor as we can, because she's a child. Like, you got to keep the kid like wonder for her.
I cannot imagine for someone who hasn't gone through the experiences that you had in your own health, being the parent to a child who has a tumor, like to find that out and then to process that as a parent and then to process that for your kid and like how you're going to show up, because you can't be a blubbering falling apart person. You have to be strong for them. Like, what was that like?
Question. Well, at the time I was still in my 16-year marketing career in a corporate setting. And so also, managing all of that, FMLA, time off. This is the story I'll share. So I'm not saying I didn't have my moments of blubbering. I did. let's normalize that. That's part of processing. It's part of managing our emotional energy, being able to sit with difficult feelings and not judge ourselves, right? So my daughter was diagnosed while my husband actually was out of town at a conference. So I had a friend at the hospital with me when my daughter was taken into emergency surgery to help relieve some of the pressure in her brain from cerebral spinal fluid that was building up because the tumor wasn't letting it drain correctly. So, oh, I have two stories now. So I remember seeing through the text window the CT scan, and I've never seen a brain tumor before. I've seen lots of kidney ultrasounds. I looked through the window, I saw the tumor, and I'm like, okay, that's what we're dealing with. Because for months we didn't know what was going on. So to have the
It wasn't
reason,
sudden. It wasn't like you suddenly landed in the ER. Something had been going on for a while.
yeah, and we were trying to figure it out. She'd been suffering from headaches in the morning and then nausea, and then the headaches would go away. And it wasn't, we couldn't find a pattern. We did all of the headache food journals and looking for stress triggers, what's going on. And so I finally, finally got her a CT and excuse me. And I saw the tumor. I'm like, okay, this is what we're doing with. So I have a friend drive us to the hospital because she did at that point need emergency surgery for hydrocephalus. And as she was coming out of surgery and in recovery, my friend was with me. And then my husband was flying home to be with us. And I looked to my friend and I said, it's not a tumor. Like in my best Arnold Schwarzenegger twins voice. And he looked at me and he's like, but it is a tumor. But I needed that moment of levity. I had been building up months and months and months of this concern and worry and investigation. And it was like, oh my gosh, we know what's going on. Now we can focus on how to move forward, helping her feel better.
Yeah.
So that helped me.
Isn't
The
that
second part,
love how the thing, like in one breath, there's relief because now there's a name, which means you can go after it. And in
yes,
the other part of that breath is just like knowing how heavy that that name is and the unknown of what that actually is going to mean for you and your family.
right. Yeah, I remember looking at the neurosurgeon and saying, um, are we taking her home with us? Like, you know, and I just said it, and I think my husband thought I was nuts because I said it in a very calm manner. I'm like, I want to know what I'm dealing with. Are we taking her home with us? The treatment that you just provided her with for the hydrocephalus, and we know we're going to have to look at treatments down the road for the actual tumor. Are we taking her home with us? I is it with some deficits? Will she not be able to, all of those questions didn't matter. It's just like, is her beautiful soul going to stay with us? And he said yes. I'm like, okay,
Very well, let's go.
then we'll do it. And
Saddle up.
saddle up. So then probably 3 days into our 7-day stay that time, the weight did come down on me and all of the what ifs were going. And I try not to go into what ifs. I try not to go into why me. But they just came. And I was about to lose it in the room. And then all of a sudden, this calm fell over me. And a voice outside of myself asked, who do you want to be for her? And I got chills everywhere. And I said, well, I don't want to be the sterile environment. I don't want to be the fear. I don't want to be focused on the diagnosis. I want to be warmth. I want to be love. I want to be the feeling of home. I want to be comfort. So that realization has helped guide me over the last 8 years as well.
Who do you want to be? It's such a powerful question. And it's such a simple question, but yet so powerful and overlooked, I think, especially at the speed at which we live.
Yeah.
It's 2024 now. And who do you want to be is very different than what do you want?
Mm-hmm.
Who do you want to be around? Hey, I can't figure out how to trigger them on purpose, except for the heart. I can give
Oh,
you a heart, I think. There you go.
oh,
Um, but Zoom,
yeah.
and we always think we have to have all of these things before we can be. but you have to know what you want to be and be it before you
Mhm.
get to have all of the things.
It's the doing versus being mentality, and we very much live in the doing. And so that moment is so powerful that it helped me on my being journey.
Yeah.
This was before I had started life coach certification and going down that path where, man, I'm in it every day. um, but being able to ask ourselves, who do I want to be for her? Who do I want to be for myself? How do I want to show up in this space and moment that is in my highest vibration? How, yeah, how do I want to maneuver in the world?
And for
And
all of our non-energy listeners,
oh,
highest
yes,
vibration just means what, in your words, I won't paraphrase for you. What does highest vibration mean for you?
that's a great question. For me, it's more like a feeling, but highest vibration is like in for the greatest good. Like, how do you show up for the greatest good of you and others in the situation and the
Mm.
world, or, even at work for the company? Um,
Yeah, for me, it's like, who's my best self that's in integrity,
hmm,
the best version of me that's in integrity with who I am at my core, not who I
yes.
think everyone else expects me to be, but like who's in integrity with me as a person. If you were to strip me down, that's
Oh,
me at
yeah.
my highest
Like,
vibration.
peel away all the onions. That's work I do with my clients. Peel away all of the onions and what is at the inner core of you. If you take
Mhm.
away all of what you think and believe and desire and what you believe other people need you to be, like, what is that? I see mine as like a glowing orb right inside. And
Aw.
and I've defined mine as love, connection, and knowing that everything, like a knowing and a knowing that everything is energy. And that's how everything interacts with the world. And so when I show up connected with my inner core, my love, my connection, my highest energy, then I know that I'm showing up in integrity for those around me and for myself.
I really encourage you while you're listening to us talk right now. Like, if you've never done that work and this is a new concept to you, I really highly encourage you to get a notebook and a piece of paper and just start messily, like, reflecting on that. Maybe it's doodles, maybe it's actual words, but just get really messy and see what happens when you ask yourself, like, who am I if when no one else is looking? And if you are like, you know what, I don't like that person, you get to decide who you want to be tomorrow and change those little pieces that aren't maybe your favorite parts and keep the things that you really, really
Mhm.
enjoy.
I love that. I'd even like to propose that possibly it's just the conditioning of life that's laying over who you really are. And so
Mm,
if you identify something that maybe you don't, like, that's not the person I want to be, well, the
yeah.
person you want to be is already inside of you. It could just be like covered with conditioning. So if you're a window, like if you're looking out of a window, like when you're born and when society hasn't laid things on you and other people's expectations haven't started to cloud and steam that window up, like, you can clean that. You can get the steam away. You can take away that conditioning and rediscover who you are and who you are meant to be in the world.
I really like that analogy, metaphor, visualization that you just painted, whatever. I don't know what the right word is for it.
All
I've
of
never
those.
really thought about it that way before. I
Mm,
like that. Like, let's take off this hoodie or take off that suit, and then like, what are you
mhm.
left with? And maybe there's another piece. In my head, there are articles of clothing
That's awesome.
and blankets. But like, we get to go pick a different one out of the closet whenever we want that aligns more to like how we want to be.
Yeah. Yeah, I
I like
really
that
think
a lot.
that's sort of the whole meaning of us being here on earth in the human form is to discover who we are at our core and then live from that place as much as we can. I mean, we're human, so we're going to be messy,
Yeah. Oh, we are so messy.
so messy.
And through I've done a lot of dark work. I've done a lot of work, and I've getting to the point where it's like And it doesn't matter. We don't need to place labels or place blame or this was because of this trauma or that trauma. Like it just gets to be what it was. And I get to do with it what I wish now. We don't
Yes.
need to resolve everything. And I think that
Mhm.
we live in a time where everything's getting tied back to childhood traumas and triggers and someone did you wrong and identifying it and doing all this stuff. And it's like, okay, so my parents did the best they could with the information they had at the time, and this is how I internalized it. Why do I need to spend the rest of my life blaming my mom for this thing? I don't.
Mhm.
Like,
Right.
we
All
can
you're
just,
doing is letting that take up free rent space in your
yeah,
life.
it's not helping me. And
No.
so, like, it doesn't even matter where it came from. You get to decide that you're going to get rid of, like, not let that article of clothing.
Mhm. Well, and
Like,
that's what I enjoy about coaching, because a lot of the work where you might identify a traumatic experience or a trigger and then resolve that, a lot of that work is done more so in counseling and therapy. Whereas with coaching, we're able to be where you're at right now, decide how you want to move forward,
yes.
and then provide and discover the tools that are going to help you do that. Does that mean we don't ever talk about, oh, I believe, I have this limiting belief about this because my mom told me this one time? No, but we're not going to live in that.
Right.
And if it's something that is outside of my scope, I will ask you, would you like a referral?
Yeah.
And then when you're ready, come back and we'll start right here and we'll move forward.
Sometimes you don't even know that in a certain experience in your life was the reason that you internalize what things a different way. And so there's like that enlightened moment where you're like,
Mhm.
huh, that makes complete sense. And at the same time doesn't have to become my new identity.
Mhm.
But anyway,
Yeah.
I digress. I'm really curious how your you've had two kidney transplants.
Mhm.
That in itself is, I'm sure, its own roller coaster of ups and downs and miracles, and alignments. How did that impact you as a mom? For like, how did that shape how you showed up for your daughter?
During her diagnosis or
Yeah,
before? Oh, I
or
mean,
both? I
for
don't know.
sure. Yeah, I mean, so I had my first kidney transplant when I was 15. So actually my daughter's age right now. I was very blessed to receive a kidney from my dad, that lasted 18 years and saw me through so many milestones that just brilliant, graduating from college, graduating from high school, going to college, graduating from college, exploring my passion of theater at that time, meeting my husband, getting married, getting a house, adopting our daughter, all of those things. Um, and then I needed my next kidney transplant when she was 4. So the first time it was like, I'm a teenager, I'm immortal, fix me. You know what I mean? Like,
So
we know what's wrong,
sorry.
fix it. I'll do what I need to do. You do what you need to do, and let's get on living.
The heaviness of what was going on really did not. There was no heaviness about it
Um,
that you can remember now.
I'm trying to think, and I even, I'll ask my mom every once in a while, and she'll be like, I don't know. It's like you made it so easy on us. I'm like,
Huh.
so I think it was, I'm a realistic optimist. I didn't know that about myself at the time. I do now. And I think that's what it was. It's like, okay, we're going to do that. This is what's wrong. This is how we fix it. And we're going to go on with our life. Like, were there moments? Well, I lived in the hospital for a month during a rejection, like 2 weeks after my first transplant. Were there times that I was down? Yeah. Um, but again, just like I mentioned, the voice in the hospital for my daughter, I had one of those more sensory moments during my own hospital stay that I think allowed me to know to trust. And that's one of the lines that I use all the time is trust in the unfolding.
Mm.
So I don't like to say everything happens for a reason. You know, I don't know. I don't like that, but I like the sound of trust in the unfolding. Like, this is happening. I'm going to put my trust in myself, my faith, my team, my family, and we're going to work through it. But during that month in the hospital during the rejection, I remember like I couldn't ever sleep at night. I was watching Nick at Night all the time. I don't know if you remember Nick at Night.
Is Nick
Couldn't
at Night
sleep.
still a thing? I think it is, and I think it shows shows that I watched when I was a teenager now, and that's not right because it should be things like Petticoat Junction from old people. I'm not old, but anyway,
Right. Right. Yeah. So Nick at Night. I mean, yeah, I mean, I was watching black and white shows at the time, but whatever. It kept me company during the long nights. And
like Hillbillies, Petticoat
oh yeah,
Junction,
yeah, yeah.
like
Leave
those
It
were
to
the best.
Beaver,
That
Dennis the Menace. Hmm. Yeah, all those things. Those were my friends.
show with Barney Fife.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
So
The
I
good
remember getting up once. We digress. I remember getting up and going, going to the bathroom or something. And I came back and I wasn't a religious person at the time. I'm still more of a spiritual person. I remember kneeling on the hospital bed and just saying, "Hey, God, like I just need a sign. We've been through several treatments to try to get this kidney working. Give me a sign that I'm supposed to keep trying and I will. Otherwise, I think it's time to move on." The sign was the hospital room was always cold to me. I never could sleep. I was never comfortable at night. The room turned warm and calming, and it smelled like my grandma's house. And I laid down and I slept the whole night. And a couple days later, my numbers changed. The rejection had turned. And then I had the kidney for 18 years. So that's what I mean by trust. Look for the signs and trust. But that helped me with my daughter in her diagnosis. That helped me with my second transplant. Also, I didn't know I had a choice to not do it because now I have a 4-year-old and a husband, and I want to get better for them as well as me. And I was able to be matched with my husband's twin brother. Yeah, right? Not my husband, they're fraternal. So he didn't have the right blood type match, but his twin brother did.
Wow.
Yeah, and we just celebrated 11 years.
Talk about trusting in the unfolding.
Yeah. Yeah, it was amazing. I had so many people coming up and saying, "I'll be tested. I'll be tested." I'm very blessed in that way. And so, we worked through it. We had a great support system, and my daughter learned as much about it as a 4-year-old should. And otherwise, she just knew I wasn't feeling well, and this is how I was getting better. And so I think her having a little bit of experience, maybe visiting me in the hospital, made her a little more comfortable, 3, 4 years later when she was in the hospital. But
That makes sense because it's not foreign. Like people in our family get sick, they have surgeries, things get better.
mhm,
Like
yeah,
she grew up with that.
yeah. And I'll tell you what, though, I started to feel a pull of wanting to support people managing difficult diagnoses during her first stay because I knew how to navigate the medical machine. I knew who to talk to. I knew what to ask for. I had an idea of how to support myself emotionally, mentally, spiritually. But when I saw new families coming down the hospital corridor, and this, I'm the one in my mind right now is it was a little baby, so in a rolling crib, and the parents flanking the crib just looked like deer in the headlights. And I wanted to stop them and say, "It will be okay." And by that, I didn't mean, your child will be healed. I don't know that. But I meant like circumstances and hardships come, and we humans are born with an innate sense of resilience that we may not even know we have. And when it's needed, it will come to the surface. Of course, I didn't do that because that would have been weird. But, I just sent out healing vibes and everything to them. But my experience definitely allowed me to support my husband and my daughter in a different way. And My daughter and I will always talk about that, and my husband too. Like, so we adopted her, and she was born in the western side of the state, and we live, all the way on the eastern side of the state, seriously 8 minutes from the state's children's hospital. We live 8 minutes from her treatment center. And so we sort of always talk about, God, the universe knew that we were meant to be together, like our souls were meant to be together, and needed to find a way to bring us together. And that way for us was through adoption. And so, the universe knew that we needed each other and would support each other and grow together. And I think even that thought has helped us navigate her illness.
Yeah. I think there's a few things that you just shared in there that I think are really relatable to people, whether they're going through a chronic life-threatening illness or just feel like they're just an everyday average person who's just going through the motions. And that was that one, it's in what you need to get through hard times is inside of you, and it will show up when you need it. Like
Mhm.
those resources, those skills, you didn't need them before, so they didn't pop to the surface. And trust that you are capable of doing the hard things and figuring it out and executing it with brilliance.
Yeah. And that could be in your personal life, that could be in your professional life.
Yes, it applies to everything. Like,
Mhm.
who would have ever thought that I could have like be hosting a podcast, or that I managed a multi-million dollar contract when I worked in commercial nuclear power? Like, I couldn't until I was called to do it. And then you dig in and you find what you can and you get real scrappy
Mhm.
until you figure it out. And then it becomes this skill and this asset that then you're able to help guide other people through finding their own version of executing that skill.
Yes, definitely. And, that's one of the reasons that when I came across this framework developed by Linda Hoops, who's an organizational psychologist, that I decided to kind of move out of general professional and personal development and life coaching and into focusing on helping people build resilience through actually building proactive resilience or prosilience. That's where that prosilience comes from.
Active resilience. Love
Yeah,
that.
it identifies 4 steps to help you meet challenges, whether that challenge is, let's say challenges are neutral. So whether that challenge is you're going for a promotion or that challenge is you just received a difficult diagnosis, let's not say they're good or bad. Let's say they're neutral. Like we could talk about adversity as well in a different conversation, but there are 4 steps that you can use even during your daily life with those micro challenges that can help you build these muscles and these automatic, responses and reflexes for the larger ones that come up. But her 4 building blocks of resilience is calming yourself, choosing a strategy to meet the challenge, flexing a resilience muscle or two. We actually, she's identified 7 of them that most humans have and, use. Some of them are stronger than others. And then managing our energy, which is one of my favorite ones because I love talking about energy. And we don't always look at the holistic view of energy. We usually look at like, oh, I'm so tired, like physically, and then there's mental energy, emotional energy, and spiritual energy. So the whole foundation and theory of prosilience is that you can use micro challenges that come up in your day to build your response and tolerance, I would even say, for challenges so that you can find more confidence leading up to them. You can find more calm. You can have more contentment in your life no matter what's coming your way. And so that's why I really love to share this idea and specifically for those managing difficult diagnoses.
Oh, I love that so much. Would you, those 4 things that you just shared,
Mhm.
would you say that those are the steps that you would recommend, whether you're being the person that's diagnosed or you're the caregiver of someone who's being diagnosed with a life-threatening illness?
Yeah. Yeah. So
Like,
past clients,
what would be your advice?
yeah, my advice is like, I didn't know this is what I was doing it the whole time. But now looking back, at my experience even as a teenager, these are sort of the ways that I went through the difficult times. And she put words to it. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I'm so happy I found this, because people would ask, how are you so resilient? And I'd usually say, like, I don't know. I am. I don't know. So yeah, I
What
would,
choice do I have?
what exactly? That's the other one. Like, I didn't know I had a choice, you know. So
Like,
I
am I
could identify, like,
fall
I'll
in a
even,
ball and like turn to dust?
that is a choice. That isn't the
That is
choice I
a
wanted
choice.
to make. I wanted to be here on this beautiful planet for a while longer. So yeah, I definitely would say, like, learn a little bit about resilience and how you can use it to meet challenges, and also recognize where you're already resilient. So if we look at the resilient muscles that we all have available to us, they're identified as positivity, confidence, priorities, creativity, connection, structure, and experimenting. And for different challenges, we might employ a different muscle, and we might use two or three together. I've learned that one of them I don't really use a lot is experimenting, because I have so much uncertainty in life that maybe I don't want to try some new things. So I usually really tap into positivity and confidence and creativity, which is, creativity is generating a wide range of possibilities and ideas for how to meet the challenge. It's not about drawing, which is great also if you just want to draw or paint, that's fine. But those are some of the resilience muscles that I really use. And there are even ways that you can, if you're like, I don't think I use structure very much, but I'd like to be able to, because that feels like a solid foundation to come from. Well, there are some ways that you can do little things every day to help build your structure resilience muscle. It's like going to the gym for your muscles, but instead of, getting really fit, you're getting your resilience muscles fit so that you can manage your energy more, because our energy is what actually fuels our resilience.
Yeah. Now, now that you've been on both sides, you've been the patient and the caregiver, would you say that a diagnosis of a life-threatening illness, is it different? Is it different being the person that is being given the diagnoses, and is it different being the person who cares for and is caring for the person who has the
Yeah,
diagnoses? And what would you want people to know about that difference?
right. Now, I'm going to say this with a caveat
Go
that I
for it.
was diagnosed when I was very young. So again, I was a teenager, immortal, fix me. I'm going to live forever. I think if I were to have another diagnosis now, it might be a little different for me. But I think it definitely hit me harder when my daughter was diagnosed, and I needed to do some work to support myself. I crashed, man. I was in a place of anxiety all of the time, like about a year after her diagnosis, um, not knowing when the other shoe was going to drop.
Yeah.
What's coming next? Is this headache the one that says her tumor's grown? And it's different when it's a loved one, because you can't take it away from them. Um, but my suggestion would be, just ask yourself that question. Who do you want to be for yourself with a difficult diagnosis? Who do you want to be for your daughter, your son, your mom, your spouse, your significant other? How do you want to be a support? And how do you want to show up for yourself so that you don't nosedive? You can't pour from an empty cup. You can't. I was I was pouring from an empty cup about a year and a half after her diagnosis, and ended up dropping to like under 100 pounds, because how anxiety was physically manifesting. I couldn't eat well. All of those things. Wasn't sleeping well. Funnily enough, That's when I was laid off from my corporate marketing gig. And all of a sudden I was like, maybe I'll try this life coaching thing as a career. Little did I know it wasn't for my career.
It was for your life.
It was for my life. It was for it changed the dynamic of my household, of our relationship. We've always been a very close family, but the stress of a difficult diagnosis can either pull you together or pull you apart. I had great modeling when I was ill and young. My parents pulled together. My husband and I are a great team. We pulled together. Our daughter is courageous and strong and resilient, even if she doesn't know it yet, because she's 15. And
sometimes not knowing what you don't know, like, is such a gift.
yeah. Yeah.
Blind, sometimes just like being naive and blind to all of this behind the curtain stuff is its own gift.
Yeah. Sometimes it is like that, the blind faith, the blind trust.
Sometimes if you knew sometimes if someone were to pull the curtain back and you got to see exactly what was actually laid out in front of you, that is enough. I think that so many people would shut down.
Yeah. Well, and so that's what I share with clients that I work with who've received a difficult diagnosis is one thing that really resonates with them is when you be where your feet are, even if it sucks,
Boy,
be
I
where
felt
your
the
feet
need to
are,
ground myself. Did you just see me shift in my chair? You
be
said
where
that
your
I
feet
need to
are.
ground my feet.
Yeah. Be where your feet are. Take the next right step. Don't do anything beyond that.
Oh, I love that so much. That is just life advice right there.
Yeah. And we don't because our mind starts going, our brain is trying to protect us. It's looking for all of the threats. Sometimes you just need to be where you are and take the next right step. And then you can look around. Was that the right step for me? Yeah. Okay, great. Take the next one. Was it not? All right, let's realign, let's recalibrate. And our greatest teachers are mistakes. We all go about life trying not to make mistakes, when in actuality, they're our greatest teacher.
And I don't even know that I even call them mistakes anymore because
Mm-hmm.
they were the right decision in the moment with the information that you had.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got new information so you could make a new right decision.
Yeah, I love that. Even when I was working corporate, I had a sign on my wall that says, do what you can with what you have where you are.
Yeah. And then let it evolve into where it needs to go from there.
Mm-hmm. And don't try to forecast too far into the future. I'm not saying don't plan. I'm not saying don't dream. I'm not saying don't, have some goals, but I guess don't do it in the worry way.
Yeah.
Like,
I
oh,
find
what's the worst that can happen? No, what's the best that can happen?
that
Maybe.
can happen. I find myself in planning mode as a form of procrastination.
Mm-hmm.
Of me trying to control what I have control over, which is my pen and the piece of paper, when in reality, I just need to go put my feet where my feet out into the world
Yeah.
and like take the next right action.
Yeah. Well, I love what you just said there. And it's basically like the only thing you have control over is you.
Yeah.
That's the only thing.
Because when have we ever, I don't know about you, but like if I sat here with my planner and planned out exactly what I'm going to be doing for the next like 12 weeks, it's not happening that way.
No.
It's like this false sense of security, and then we use it as a way to like either beat ourselves up and say,
Mm-hmm.
see, I'm a failure, I wasn't able to do it, there I go again trying to fool myself into being someone that I wasn't. Whereas if you just know where you're going for like the next 3 steps and you take the next step.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at a ladder, the rungs are only 6 inches apart or something. I don't know. I'm not good with numbers. They aren't 12.
Yeah, right.
Small
Right.
steps.
Oh,
And
small one. I have it tattooed on my body. It says one step at a time. You just
one
take
step
it.
at a time. And sometimes, you know what? Sometimes the right step is a backward step.
Oh, say that one more time because I think that needs to settle. I think that needs to
Sure.
sink in and settle.
Sometimes the right step is a backward step.
and we're going to let people figure out what that means for themselves.
I
I
love
love
that. Yeah.
I love that. I have a bad habit of explaining things, and I'm like, no, someone needs to go deep with that one and like unpack that for what it means to them.
Hmm.
So, Jenn, I have loved this conversation so incredibly much. What would you say? Is there anything that's like left on your heart that you wanted to share that we didn't talk about, or a final message that you want to leave the listeners with for today as we're
Um,
wrapping up?
a lot of times as humans, we say, oh, things will be better when. I'll feel less stressed when the holidays are over. I'll feel my pain will go away when. And I like to say or invite you to think you don't have to wait for everything to be better to feel and live better.
I love that. That in itself is a gift. And I feel like that comes with so much experience, because I'm sure there have been many days where you just didn't know, like when your body was rejecting your kidney,
Mhm.
and of just no right now.
Yeah. All we have is right now.
So good. Jenn, how do people connect with you outside of the podcast?
Oh, sure. Well, I have a website. It's prosiliencecoach.com. I'll spell that PROSILIENCE coach.com.
And I'll
I'm on
put that in the
Instagram
notes.
at jfredwi for jfred in Wisconsin. And then I'm also on LinkedIn and Facebook, but out of those couple of things, you'd be able to reach out. I've truly enjoyed this conversation. I love the name of your podcast.
Thank you.
I love humans. And so if anyone has any questions or anything comes up for them and they're like, I didn't get that part, reach out. Um, we're all just making it our way through the world. Yeah.
That's right. And I know everyone says that, like, oh, just reach out. When I tell you that Jenn is like one of those humans that is an actual human, we were supposed to record a week ago and I got sick, and I sent her a little video message and was like, hey, I have to cancel today. We can't do this. And she even checked in on me. Like we had conversation about it of like, her husband was sick too. And so she's like, I get it. And we rescheduled. Like, those are the kind of humans that you want to surround yourself with. So even if you're not struggling with a life-threatening illness, she's like one of those good humans that you want in your corner to like bring into your world. So go find her on Instagram, become a part of her world. And Jenn, again, thank you so much for sharing with us today. And with that, everyone, that's Two Humans Talking. I'll see you next time. Bye.